Hey there, and welcome back to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Emily. We're so glad you're here with us. Today's episode is a bit of a slower one, intentionally. We're talking about the quiet moments in life. The ones that often pass unnoticed, but somehow end up meaning the most.
Yeah, it's easy to overlook them, isn't it? We live in a world that praises the big milestones, the loud celebrations, the shiny achievements. But life isn't only made of those high points. It's mostly made of ordinary, in-between moments that don't always look impressive, but they feel like something real.
It's that moment when you're having your morning tea, and the world hasn't quite woken up yet. Or when someone remembers something small about you. Or when you take a deep breath after a long day and realize, you made it through.
I think sometimes we expect meaning to arrive with fireworks. But meaning often shows up in a quiet room, or in the stillness of your own thoughts. It sneaks in while you're doing the dishes, or walking alone, or listening to a song you've heard 100 times before, only now, it hits differently.
And the thing is, when we rush through life chasing the next big thing, we miss those soft moments. The ones that don't demand attention, but offer comfort. The ones that say, you're okay. You're enough. Right here, as you are.
There's something sacred about quiet. Not silence in a lonely sense, but stillness in a grounding sense. The kind of quiet that gives you space to feel, to process, to just be without performance.
And maybe that's the part we forget. That those tiny pauses, those peaceful, undramatic moments, are where we actually feel most connected to ourselves. They are not wasted time. They are not empty. They are essential.
And I think we often overlook them because they don't always come with a result. There's no medal for making yourself a cup of tea and sitting in the sun for 10 minutes. But that moment might bring you more clarity than hours of productivity ever could.
Yes, and sometimes the most healing thing isn't another task ticked off your list. It's simply sitting still and letting yourself exist, without rushing to be useful. Those moments don't shout for our attention, but they hold so much quiet strength.
I remember once walking home in the rain, completely soaked, but everything just felt right. No music, no phone, no agenda. Just the sound of water on leaves and the city slowing down around me. It wasn't dramatic, but I think about it often.
It's like those moments remind you that you're alive, not just existing to get through the week, but actually feeling your way through life. And that's something we don't pause to do enough.
Because we're so used to chasing the next thing, aren't we? The next goal, the next message, the next plan. But sometimes, what you need isn't more noise. It's to notice what's already here, already happening, already enough.
And those are the moments that become memories in ways we don't always realize. The quiet night walks, the shared glances, the gentle routines. They aren't posted. They aren't recorded. But they stay with you. And they shape you just as much as the big, loud moments do, if not more.
And funny enough, when we look back on life, it's rarely the loud successes or the flashy days that feel the most meaningful. It's the stillness. The time you sat with someone in silence and felt understood. The early morning light filtering through your window. The sound of someone you love making tea in the next room.
Exactly. It's those tiny, unremarkable details that somehow settle in your memory the deepest. And what's beautiful is that they're always around us, we just forget to see them. We wait for the big moments to feel alive, but life has been quietly offering itself to us all along.
And maybe that's the shift, learning to value the things that don't shout for our attention. Learning to see beauty in a moment that doesn't promise any kind of reward other than presence. And that, I think, is the most underrated kind of joy.
Because in the quiet, there's truth. There's no pretending. You're not performing for anyone. You're just you. Breathing, noticing, allowing yourself to be part of something simpler, slower, and somehow more real.
And when you start paying attention to those moments, everything softens. The pressure. The rush. The endless comparison. You begin to realize that you don't need to earn peace through productivity. Peace can meet you in a breath, in a pause, in that still corner of your day.
And you don't need to justify it. You don't need to explain why a quiet cup of coffee felt like medicine, or why sitting with a sunset made you cry. Those moments matter, because you matter, and because life doesn't need to be loud to be meaningful.
And when you give yourself permission to slow down, you start to notice things you didn't even realize you were missing. The way your body relaxes when you're not rushing. The comfort in familiar sounds. The steadiness in your own breathing. That kind of awareness isn't a luxury, it's a form of self-respect.
It's like learning to tune into a different frequency. Not the loud, chaotic one that demands your constant attention, but the soft one underneath it all. The one that's been waiting for you to notice it. That frequency reminds you that you're allowed to stop chasing and just be.
I think the more we allow space for those quiet moments, the more we realize that they are not breaks from life, they are life. They are not interruptions or pauses. They are the moments that give the rest of it meaning.
And when you start treating those moments with care, with presence, you begin to reconnect with parts of yourself you may have ignored. The part that doesn't need to impress anyone. The part that just wants to be grounded and still.
And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not about creating some ideal routine or aesthetic moment. Sometimes it's just sitting at the kitchen table with a warm drink, or stepping outside and letting the wind hit your face. That's all. And somehow, that's everything.
Because those are the moments that bring you back to yourself. Not who you're trying to be, or who others expect you to be, but who you are, deep down, when everything else is quiet.
And I think that's something we often forget, that we're allowed to return to ourselves without needing a crisis or a breakthrough. We don't need a dramatic reason to pause. Sometimes it's enough to just say, this moment matters because I do.
And you start to notice how much calmer life feels, when you aren't constantly trying to squeeze meaning out of every second. When you're not measuring the value of your day by how much you produced, but by how much you felt. That shift can be gentle, but it's powerful.
You stop craving escape, because you've made peace with being here. Even in the ordinary. Even in the quiet. Especially in the quiet. And that's not something we're taught, really, we learn it when we're finally too tired to keep performing.
Yeah, and when you stop performing, you finally have space to listen. To your own thoughts, your own rhythms, your own needs. You realize that you're not broken, or behind, just because your life doesn't look loud or busy. There's value in slow, intentional living too.
And that kind of life often doesn't look impressive from the outside. It's not curated. It's not flashy. But it's deeply fulfilling. It's the kind of life where you wake up and feel calm, not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer resisting the present moment. You're in it.
And that's the whole point, isn't it? Being in your life, not just managing it. Not just surviving it. But really being in it, fully, quietly, without needing anyone else to validate that choice.
And once you begin to live that way, really be with your life, even in its stillness, you realize how much richness you were skipping over. The morning light on your wall, the rhythm of your own breath, the comfort of a familiar voice, it's all been there, waiting for you to slow down long enough to notice.
It's funny how the very things we rush past tend to be the ones we look back on with the most tenderness. We think we'll remember the awards or the milestones, but so often it's the sound of a kettle boiling, or the walk we took when we couldn't sleep, that stays with us.
Because that's where life actually lives, in the moments between the plans. In the pauses. In the ordinary days that don't ask anything of you except to show up and notice them.
And noticing takes practice. It's not flashy or urgent, but it's powerful. It's how you start anchoring yourself in the present instead of constantly chasing the next thing. You begin to realize you don't have to earn rest, or joy, or stillness. They are already yours if you'll let them be.
And I think that's one of the kindest things you can do for yourself. To stop waiting for permission to slow down, and just give it to yourself. To say, this small moment matters. This breath matters. I matter.
Because you do. Even on quiet days. Especially on quiet days. And your life doesn't have to be loud to be meaningful. Sometimes, it just needs to be yours. Fully yours.
And in that kind of presence, you begin to realize how much pressure you've been carrying, pressure to perform, to prove, to be constantly improving. But the quiet moments, they ask for none of that. They just offer a space where you can exist without expectation.
Exactly. They don't care about your productivity or your progress. They just meet you where you are. And when you finally slow down enough to step into them, it's like the noise in your head fades a little. You remember that you're not behind, you're not broken, you're just here, now, and that's enough.
And maybe it's in these unnoticed spaces where we start to feel whole again. Not because we fixed everything, but because we stopped running from ourselves. We started listening. And we realized there was something steady and trustworthy within us all along.
That's the beauty of stillness. It reveals what was true the whole time. You don't need to be anywhere else, or anyone else. You just need to come back to yourself, gently, one quiet moment at a time.
And when we do that, even the smallest things start to carry meaning again. A soft light in the morning. A hand resting on your own chest. A breeze through an open window. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just quietly healing.
And once you learn to recognize those moments, you begin to treasure them. They become anchors in your day, reminders that you don't have to keep performing to be at peace. You can live gently. You can move slowly. And you're still enough.
So if life feels a bit too fast right now, if you feel like you're always catching up, maybe the answer isn't to go harder, it's to go softer. To pause. To notice. To let the quiet moments be enough.
Because they are enough. And you are enough, even when you're doing less, even when you're simply being. The quiet doesn't mean nothing is happening. Sometimes it means everything is.
Thanks for spending this slow, thoughtful moment with us. We hope it reminds you to make room for stillness, to let simplicity speak, and to trust the quiet parts of your life.
If this resonated with you, feel free to share it with someone who might need a gentle reminder too. And if you'd like more moments like this, you know where to find us.
Take care of yourself. Not just when you're busy, but especially when you're still.
We'll see you next time, right here on the British Accent Podcast.